Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Menachot daf Pei Zayin. We're going to begin on Pei Vav Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. So the Mishnah says as follows: Ma ayin hoyu maviyin es hayayin. So of course, among the different things that we have in the Beis Hamikdash, one is wine, and the question is, where do we get it from? So there are higher quality places where we want to be able to get the best wine possible. So Keduchim v'atulin alfaliyain. These are like the best places where the wine is the best because the grapes are very well by the sun. Everything is very good. Shnilahen beis rima u beis lavan bahar. Bikfar Signa Babika. So whether this location by the mountains or by the valleys, these are the second highest level of wine, and that's where we would get the wine. If we can get it at the top place, we get it at the second highest level. But the truth is, Kartzos Hayakasheros. The truth is, any land is fine for wine. Elamikan Hoyimavian. We try to bring it from there because, again, we try to use the best in the Beis Hamikdash. In Mavian, however, lo mebeis hazvolim, we don't use wine which comes from fields that have not been fertilized. V'lo mebeis hashlochim, or irrigated fields. V'lo mamash nizra b'neihem, not if there was plantings of grain in between them, because that would probably mean that it depleted some of the nutrients for the grain. So that's a problem. V'im heavy kosher, but technically it's okay. In Mavian halistiyain. That, however, when it comes to listiyain, which Rashi says nisbashal ba'anavim b'chama yosemedai, it's like too much. That's a problem, and because of that, the sun makes the wine extremely sweet. So that's something which we don't want. V'im heavy kosher. However, even though it's sweet wine, this is fine. Even though we'll see maybe certain sweet wines are not good. Ein Mavian Yashan. We don't bring old wine to Rebbe Chachamim Machshirin. So it's a machlokas by Yain Yashan. Ein Mavian Lo Matok, which again we're going to see maybe it's a stira. Here it says you cannot use sweet wine. V'lo Ma'ushan. You can't use smoked. V'lo Mavushal, and it can't be cooked wine. In the Beis Hamikdash, it has to be yain, which is not mavushal. Im heavy posel. So again, that's a stira regarding the sweet wine. We'll get to. Ein Mavian min hadalyos. Elamin haraglios. So it says the dalyos, its wine is not going to be good, and this is actually referring to that they're hanging on poles. So grapevines that are hanging on poles, that you're not going to have good quality wine there. But rather, as Rashi explains, yain shegidol bagafanim nemuchim. If they come from like lower grapevines, that is the better quality. Umin hakromim avudin, and vineyards that are avudin, which more can explain what it means. Like we work with that. V'lokainsin oisan bechatzmin. You shouldn't put the wine in large barrels, gedayim. Ela b'chavius katanos, small barrels. Ve'en mamoyas achavius ad piha. We don't fill the wine all the way to the top. Kadeshe reicho noidef, because that ends up affecting the fragrance of the wine. So by having a little bit of a space, which we actually have a little bit of space also in our wine, maybe it's the same idea. And maybe mapia. Now, when it comes to when we open it up, we don't take from the top or the mouth of the barrel. As we continue to pay Zayim and Aleph, the reason is hakamachen, because that could be somewhat of a moldy part of the wine. It's not good wine, the very, very top. V'lo mishuya mnei hashmarim. We also want to take from the bottom because of the sediments. Ella maybe mishlisha me'emsa. So we basically will take from a third in the middle. So we want to make sure that we're not going to have any sediments. Now, Kate said hu boidik. How did they examine when they would take this wine to make sure that there was no sediments that would come out? So what would he do? So Hagizber Yoshev, he was sitting around watching what was going on. Vakana biyado, he had a stick in his hand. Zarka gear, and he was throwing the throfty part. And Hikish Vakana, and then he would hit with a stick. So says Rashi, Shehiskil Lotses Oiso Love and Shetach Zayain Shesaf al Hashamarim, that flows above the sediments. So he was able to determine when the sediments were gonna come. The other guy was too busy pouring, so he would not speak, but he would use a stick to give a little whack, and the person who was pouring would quickly stop pouring and close the barrel. As Rashi says, Hagizra Gabi Hakad V'Saisim Zeh Miyad. He would close it up immediately. When they were pouring the wine, no one spoke. We'll see why. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Huda Omer Sheishbo Kimochim Posel. If the wine has if it's like a floweriness to it, that's posel, and that's like a balmum. Shenemer tamimim yulachem umin chasam tamimim yulachem v'nisgehem. Okay, so we went out from here that again, if there's kamachim, it's like a balmum. Says the Gemara, Ein mavien lo matok lo mavushal lo ma'ushan. You can't use sweet, cooked, or smoky wine. V'im heavy posel. Aibal katani reisha in mavienes ha listiain. You're not supposed to use the sweet wine. V'im heavy kosher. So can you use sweet wine or not? So Ravina kruch v'tni. So you have to actually amend it and read it together. That really you're not allowed to bring this type of wine. Why? Lafi she'ein mavien lo matok, because you cannot use it, and therefore it is posel actually. V'tani Ravashi Emer no chulia deshimsha lo moyas. This wine, even though it became sweet, sweet by the sun, and that doesn't become repulsive. That's fine. However, chul de pera moyas, if it became sweetened by the fruit itself, right? The fruit itself, or the grape itself, is the nature of its sweetness, not the sun. That's repulsive, and that's not something which is high quality wine. In Mavien Yoshin de Rebbe Chachamim Machshirim Sveva Machlokas. Or Mechiski, my time to Rebbe. Why does Rebbe say you can't use old wine? So Makra, because the pasuk is a keves yayin. So it says lekeves yayin. So it's interesting. The keves is an animal, and the yayin is wine. So my keves ben shanasai. Just like we know that the keves, the animal, has to be less than a year old, can't be old. Av yayin. Ben Shanasa has to be less than a year old. So if that's true, if we're going to compare it to the animal, let's go all the way. Ma'kev is ben shtei shanim posel, av yain ben shtei shanim posel, right? That's not true, right? If you have old wine, which is less than a year old, we're not going to say it's posel. Maybe it is posel. It's not true. If it's sign yain ben shtei shanim lo yavivim havi kosher. So actually, b'diavad you could use it. So man shaman le di'emer lo yavi. Who would be the one who says you shouldn't? Rabbi v'kaimer im yavi kosher, but b'diavad you could. So how do we understand this? What is the reason then why he says it should not be old wine? It can't be because you compare it to a keves. El omerava hainu time to Rabbi d'chsev al tira yain ki is adam. You see, wine, it is red. So when is wine at its reddest state? So basically, what it's saying is that at the time, the very first year, that's when the wine has its strongest level of color. But as time goes by, wine may taste better, but the redness of it goes away. Question 2. Yain yashan mishel shtakid or mishel shteishonim im maviyin bimenu when the sachem l'chatchila ub'diavad. So l'chatchila it's a machlokas, but b'diavad everyone says it's kosher. Okay. Ein maviyin lumin hadalius. So Tana Kramim Ha'avudim Pamim Bashana is actually referring to that it was used and worked twice a year. Rav Yosef Havile Karnid Pardesa, he actually had this orchard, the Rafik Bey Trey Rivka, so he would dig it twice. V'Avid Chamra the Darimaya Al Chadtrin. And the wine, ended up being of such high quality that it was 2 to 1. Now, Rashi helps us out, this 2-to-1 business. Rashi says, Shahayochel Lamoisgo, when you have wine, they didn't just drink it straight. They would have to dilute it with water. So the question is, how much did it have to be diluted? The Alma Dari Al Chad Tlasa. Most people do a 1-to-3 ratio of wine to water. V'zeu Mekabel Chad Shisha. It was so strong that it was a 1-to-6 ratio. Vainu Al Chad Trin Diyayin Acher. So it was like a 2-to-1. In other words, because the wine was so strong, you needed more water to dilute it. That's how good it was. Okay. We don't put them into big barrels. Tana chaviyos, kadiyos, ludius, ubeninus. So barrels should be like small, like barrels, or middle-size jugs. Kadim beinanim shel lud. Okay, from lud. Ein manichin oisa shtayim el achas. We wouldn't put them 2-to-2, as Rashi says, Zua Gabzu, one on top of the other, but rather they're all separate. Ketzad Boide Gizbor Yoshev Bekana Biyado Zorek Agir Hikish Bekana. So he would hit it with a stick, he didn't speak. So Tana Zarek Agir Shel Shemarim, he would be throwing the froth, which was right on the top of the Shemarim, and then once he saw that, he knew that the Shemarim were about to come, and we want to not have the sediments there. So Gizber Hikish Bekana, he hit with a stick. Mamer, why does he just speak up, right? So Messiah Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yochanan Kashem Shadiber Yafa Lubasamim Kach Diber Ral Yain. So you're not supposed to speak when you're dealing with wine. However, when you're dealing with spices, speaking is okay, which is a very interesting idea. What's the significance of it? So on some level, wine in itself, we say nichnas yayin yatzasoid. So when you're drinking, so you don't need to speak because the words will come out after the drinking of the wine. Alternatively, when you're drinking or you're using wine is drinking with your mouth. So while you're already engaged with your mouth, you shouldn't be speaking. However, with a different sense of smell, there's nothing wrong with speaking during that time. In fact, that could enhance that idea. Rav Yosi bar Rabbi Yehuda im Rav Chul. So by Rav Yochanan, Hagdishu mahu shiyilka love mishum bal mum. So this is actually the 4th time that we actually had this same question regarding other things in which they are considered to be like a bal mum. So just like over here, we're talking about yayin. We had this by shemen. We had this by the flour. If it was wormy. So over here, we're asking the same kasha. If it's puzzle, does it have the status of a balmum, and that you would get malchus for actually using it? So kiban the pasuk of balmum dami, so you get malchus. So dilma in balmum el behema teku. Same thing. Was in a boy delicious. Turnabonon. Elim. The rams came mimboyav. These are like the best places to get all these animals. The kvasim came mechevrain. Agolim, the calves, misharoin. Goizalois, these birds, mahar melech. Yehuda Omer mevin kvasim she givahan kirachvon. That the kvasim, they would be, as Rashi says over here, rachavim. They were wide, mirov shmanois, because they were very fatty. So that was actually a very high quality animal to bring. You should graze your flock by these wide lambs. The pasuk says, this is an interesting way to end this parak, that regarding the walls of Yerushalayim I've commanded, Shaimrim, Rashi says this is the Malachim. Hashem commanded the angels that Kol Yom B'chol Layla Tamid, that they need to be guarding Yerushalayim day and night. O Yichoshu Hamaskirim Es Hashem. They will not be silent those who mention Hashem. Al Dami Lechem should not be remain silent. So my army, what does this mean? So Achiyam Rabba Marashila Atotokam Tarachem Tzion. right? You should stand up those who have compassion on Sion. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Eimer Bani Yerushalayim Hashem. Umikara, says Rashi, before the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Mai Havi Amri. What did they say before the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed? So Merav Marashila Ki Bachar Hashem Etzion Oyel Moishavloi. So says Rashi, Af Lasad Lavo Asidim Hamalachim Liyoy Shaimrim V'Loimer Ki Bachar Hashem Etzion. Actually, the words Ki Bachar Hashem Etzion is something in which they will also be saying L'Asad Lavo as well. Question 3. Eza davar yafalo hadibor b'samim. Eza davar ral dibor yayin. Okay. Question TA6. Matai nikra yayin yashan l'inin nesachim umadinai. So yayin, which is shtei shanim. So the Rabbanan say it's kosher. Yehuda says l'chatchila you shouldn't bring it. Okay, so that is TA6, similar to question 2. Fine. TB 9, same question. I wrote shtei shanim l'chatchila zeh machlokas abadiyevad kosher l'kol yalma. That's correct. It's TB 9. Okay. Hadnul kol karbanos at Sibor, Hadnul kol karbanos Sibor, Hadnul kol karbanos Sibor. So we're now going to start the 10th parak, and this Masechta ends at Daf Kuf Yud. So we still have a little bit left to go. We have a couple more procumens on the 13th parak. It looks like that's the last parak. We're up to the 10th parak. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So the Mishnah says Shtei Midos Shel Yavish Hayim HaMikdash. There was 2 kalim that were used in the Beis HaMikdash for dry items. And the measurements were, one was an isaron, and the other was l'chatzi isaron. So these are measurements. An isaron and half isaron. We'll see why we need to have a half isaron, what's the purpose of it. Rameir oimer isaron, isaron, v'chatzi isaron. Rameir, interestingly enough, says there was 3 kalim, and 2 of them were basically sounds like the same, so why do you need to have 2 which are the same? We'll see. One is an isaron, the other one is an isaron, the other is half isaron. So isaron mahoyu mishamish would use that for shabo hayim maidid l'chol menachos. We use that for any flour offering. Lo hayim maidid lo b'shleish par. So the truth is, we never used we didn't use a kli, which was 3 esrainim. Below b'shel shnayim ayil. No maidin esrainos. Basically, even though it's true that a par requires 3 esronim, what we'd use is we just use the isaron, and we'd use it 3 times. Chatzi isaron mahay mishamish was the purpose of the half one. Shemo hayim maidin chaviti kohen gadol mechsa b'moika mechsa ben arboyim, because we know that the kohen gadol would bring the chaviti kohen gadol every single day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and it wasn't isaron, but he used to split it half and half. So the way that he was able to know the precise measure, he would have to have a chatzi isaron. So that was the purpose of this kli, specifically for the chaviti kohen gadol. But all other dried items was the measurement of an isaron or multiple israelis. Says the Gemara, Tana haya rameir oimer matam oleimer isaron lekeves hoachad molamid sheshtei esrainai. Isaron, lekeves hoachad. Right, it says it twice. So why? It tells you that sheshtei esronos hayu b'mikdash. Must be there's 2 of them. So why do you have 2? They were slightly different, even though they were both in isaron, but echad gadosh ve'echad mochoik. So one was gadosh. Rashi says shlo hayu bo isaron el imkin gaidshai. The only way in itself, up until the top, it was actually not an isaron. You actually had to have it a little bit of an overflow, like for surface tension, that allowed it to, once you filled it up higher than the amount, then was an isaron. Mochoik means that it was exactly an isaron if it was completely smoothed out on the top, not a heaping one. So that's the difference between a gadosh and a mochoik. Okay. Machika is like erasing, like you remove the top. So that's machok. So gadosh shabo hayamoid l'chol menachos. So the Gadush one, which was an over heaping one, that's what we usually use for almost everything. And for all menachos, that's what we used. However, we had to use a different isaron for the Kohen Gadol, as we'll see on Pei Zayin Amud Beis. The mochok shabo hayamoidin l'chaviti Kohen Gadol. And Rashi says, Lafi yeshlo l'chalach l'shnei chatzoi isaron. He had to have a smooth out one, because since he had to fill it up and then basically dump half of it until the Chatzi Yisrael one got filled up. So what would happen if there was stuff on the top and he's pouring it from one kli to the next? When he turns it to split it in half, mispazer al gabi akarka, he may spill some of it. So therefore he'd rather use a kli in which when you use the kli, it's not over it, but it's exactly this amount, so this way he could pour it without spilling. Okay. Shenemar, so that's the reason. There's only just one. We'll see if it's a Gadush or Machok, that we don't know yet. Shenemar v'Yisaron echad lekevas ha'echad. Im ken amat haman Yisaron Yisaron, so I have to say it twice. Rabos Chatzi Yisaron. It just means that there is two, but one is a Chatzi Yisaron. For Meir, Chatzi Yisaron Minole, so how does he know there was also the Chatzi Yisaron? Because Yisaron, he's saying, is talking about these two Kalim. So Nafli Miva Yisaron, the Vav. Rabbanan Vav Udarshi. For Meir, Haivi Yisaron, Echad Keves, Hoechad, Mayavadale. What does he do with this other one, which is Mashma Yisaron Echad, right? It sounds like there's only one. So what does he do with that pasuk? Who shall yimdoid lo b'shel shloi shel apar v'lo b'shel shnayim l'ayil. It just means that we would use the same isaron, even though you had a par or an ayil, which required 3 or 2 esronim. It didn't make any difference. You only used the same one. You just kept used it a couple times. That's what it means by echad. Rabbanan nafkale minikudo. The fact that it has dots, that's how we know that that's the case. The Sanya Rav Yosef Nokud Vav Sheba Emsa at Isaron. Why is there dots over there? Shall Isaron Rishon shall Yom Tov Rishon shall Chag. On the first day of Sukkot, it mentioned there's dots in the Torah. Shall Yimdaid Lo B'Shel Gimel Apar Lo B'Shel Shnayim Ayil. So this is the dots that teach us this. However, Reb Meir Nikuda Lo Darish. There's no drush on dots. The question, why are they there? There must be a reason why they're there. Okay, but he doesn't make a drasha from it. Chatzi Saran Ma Hayim Shamish Shabo Hayamaydi the Chaviti Kohen Gadol. So again, the Kohen Gadol would have the Saran, but he would use Chatzi Baboik and Chatzi Ben Arboim. Now, Maydid from his house, this is where it used to come from. Minhu Chaviti Kohen Gadol Hayaboin Chitzayin. He didn't bring halves. Maybe starting the shalom v'chutzai. So what does he mean? It sounds like he used it for a half, but it's not true. He would have the full and then split it. So Rav Sheish is my mighty dami the gatani mechalik. It means that he split into 2. So Bamini Rambam Racham and Rav Chisda Chatzi Saron Rav Meir. When it came to the Shita Rav Meir, when it comes to the Chatzi Saron, was that Gadush Hoya or Machakoya? Was it heaping or was it exact? So Simon Chatzi Chaviti Shulchan. Vati Boyach Rabbanan. So want the Rabbanan ask the same kash the Rabbanan. So Rabbanan Isarin Gufa Kuma Boyloi. Not only the question about the Chatzi, the question is, according to the Rabbanan in general, the one Isaron Kli that was there, we have a question on that too. Gadish Hoya or Mochakoya. So Omerle Minarab Meir, Nishmil Meir. From Rab Meir's other words, we can understand answer for Rab Meir. And in Rab Meir, Nishmo Rabban. We can also infer the Shita Rabban. The fact that he said that we used the Isaron Machok for the Kohen Gadol, it must be the Chatzi Isaron Nami Machok. It must be, therefore, the Chatzi Isaron is also Machok, because it would be considered the same as the Isaron for the Kohen Gadol. The reason why it was Machok specifically for the Kohen Gadol, so therefore we would want it to be Machok as well when it comes to the Chatzi Isaron. Meir Machok Rabbanan Nami Machok, and therefore the Isaron, the only Isaron that was used was only a Machok one, because again you want it used for the Kohen Gadol, so you don't need to have Gadush. question is, then why do you need Gadush? Is an interesting question. How did he divide it? Lachalos, biyad or b'kli? Did he use his hand or a kli? So shita biyad, he must have used his hand. The e b'kli, tani yachnis. We're going to bring a scale in there to weigh it out. So v'yachnis. So who cares? Bring a scale. It's a klola, as the pasuk says. Rashi quotes, "Ve'shivu lachmachem b'mishkol," that they would basically weigh out their bread with a weight, and this is part of the tochacha, right? That it was such little food they're going to need to weigh it, so it doesn't look good. It's a klola, so therefore we wouldn't want to weigh bread. When it comes to the shulchan in the Beis Hamikdash, mahu shikadosh kmotzim b'goydish shelo. As a person, if you have the 2 spoonfuls of lavona, and they were placed on the shulchan without the spoons, does it become kedushas haguf from the shulchan? So this is the kasha. Midikadish lechem kamatzim nami mikadish. So we know that if the breads become kaddish when they're put on the shulchan, so too maybe the lavona should become kaddish. Should also become kedushas haguf. That which is supposed to be there, the lechem upon him, that becomes sanctified. However, the levina doesn't belong there. So Malay in Mekadosh. You're right, it doesn't become Kaddish. The one who says 2.5 tefachim, kaifel, it was doubled over breads. Nimsa shulchan Mekadosh chamisha aser tefach almala. We find that the shulchan was mekadosh 15 tefach and above. Well, Divrei Homer tefachayim, the one who says it was not 2.5 but 2 kaifel, nimsa shulchan mekadosh yud beis tefach almal was 12. So it's either 15 or 12. Or enu kadosh akarav of a mekadosh live soil. So how does that answer? What's the question and what's the answer? So it says. So Enu Kaddish in Darko Kaddish Ki'im Lechem, right? But we see, look at Rashi, that Tefachim Shehu Asar Tefachim Keneged Rachmo Shel Shulchan, the width of the Shulchan, Shu Chamish Tefachim. Nimsa Arko Shel Lechem, the length of the bread was Yosim Rachmo Shel Shulchan, Chamish Tefachim. The length of the bread was actually longer than the table. Nimsa Kaifel Kol Lechem, so they would fold the bread. V'lechem tefachayim umechsa 2.5. Mekan tefachayim umechsa mekan 2.5 on this side, 2.5 on that side. Nimsa shisha kipulim shel tefachayim umechsa. They would fold both sides. Shekol maracha shel shisha lechem gavoa 5 esrei tefachim. Nimsa shulchan mekadosh 5 esrei tefachim l'mala. So the shulchan was still mekadosh. The kolomer. The kiddusha shel shulchan haya oila 5 asr tefachim, v'yimikdash mekadosh kol davar bein lechem bein kamatzim the 5 asr tefachim dahainu goydish shelo. It sounds like it does sanctify it. So my answer is that which we said enu kadosh because it's not fit. That means lakarov. The enu kaimetz miskadisham. You need another kli to mekadosh it. Kodim shiach direnu before you do the haktayra. Aval mikdash hakamatzim livsol the kachi livsol belina uviyaytze. It will always take upon its sanctity the level that it will be possible belina or viyaytze. You can't take it out. However, at this point, it's still not considered to be sanctified that the shulchan gives it kedushas haguf until you actually do another action before kataris can be taken from it. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's maybe see one more question. Question 4. Kama kli mida shel yisaron hoy b'mikdash im hoyu asun lahachzik yisaron b'mochik or b'gadosh. So it's a machokas, as we said. The Chamim said there was a kli which was a chatzi, and one was a chatzi's isaron, one was just one isaron, and it was machok. Rameir said there's shtei yisrainais, one was machok and one was gadush. Let's see if there's another question over here. TA7, no. TB10, no. Adkan.